As I've said before, I don't remember the move from the old kitchen to the new one, but I know it was different. We had a very, very large wood-burning stove called Home Comfort. That, at that time, was the epitome of kitchen stoves. It had a warming oven above the burners into which we put food to keep it warm. The stove had, I believe, 6 heavy iron circles, equivalent to modern-day burners, although the firebox was under only 2 of these circles. These circles were very heavy, and in order to lift them, we had a special type of lifter. Now, on the side, the left side of the firebox, was a rectangular tank in which we heated the water for washing, bathing, and so forth. The cover to this tank was a thin, silvery metal type. Water was carried from the well in buckets to fill it. After a few years, my father installed a hand pump which we used to pump water directly from the well. A pipe connected the pump under the ground to the well. We felt real ritzy then because we then had an iron sink and an inside pump for our water. Can you beat that for convenience? The pump had to be primed with water first before it would draw the water from the well. This means that we always had to have some water in a bucket or a pot in the house because we had to pour some water into the top of the pump before it would draw any water from the well while we were pumping the handle of it. Our Home Comfort had a large oven. To the right side of the top of this stove was a fancy grate on which we could place hot pots. The stove had 4 legs on which it stood. The stovepipe with draft regulators connected into the chimney. Between the stove and the wall was an open space where we placed our wood to burn in the firebox. Our dog used to love to lie there to keep warm during the winter. This stove not only was used for cooking, baking, and heating water, it was also used to heat the rooms leading off it. Every week or so, we had to polish the top of the stove with black polish to keep it shiny. That was a terribly messy job, but every housewife wanted to have a shiny stove. Since we had no electricity, we had to heat our irons on top of the stove in order to iron clothes. That was tedious because one needed several irons heating while using one on the ironing board. Now when that one that we were using cooled, we put it back on the stove and took another hot one off the stove with which to work. All the apparel had to be ironed. There was no such thing as nylon or polyester. You can imagine trying to iron clothes during the summertime when the stove had to be very hot to heat the irons and it was hot weather. We tried to do the ironing in the evening if possible. Much, much later, we had gas-heated irons for ironing. That was wonderful.